In this video, I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial on how to cut this deep neckline princess that slightly basque dress. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. So to start, here is the pattern, and I've gone ahead to mark out the basic measurement. I marked the shoulder to bust, under bust, waist, and I added extra 3 inches for the slight basque. Now I'll go ahead to label out my pattern. Now after that, I'm going to mark my shoulder divided by 2 plus half. I'll come down by 1 inch, and from this point I'll go ahead to mark out my neckline. So I'll be using 3 inches for the neckline of this dress. Now I'll go ahead to connect this. After I'm done connecting, the next step I'll take is to go ahead to place and find my chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Now I'll go ahead to place my tape, and I'll mark back my shoulder divided by 2 plus half. That is what I have at the shoulder, and I'll go ahead to draw a straight line. Now I'm going to go ahead to divide this into 2, and I'll come out by ½ inch, and I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now I'll go ahead to connect from here to the ½ inch and also to the upper part of my shoulder. Now after I'm done marking that, I'll start marking my dart. I'll start with marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches, and I'll mark this. After marking this, I'll place my ruler and draw out a straight line and connect. Now at the upper part, I'll go ahead to connect from my armhole to my bust line. But if you look at the princess dart, it's slightly curvy at the top, right? It's slightly curvy. So if you notice, I curved it. I went ahead to give it that curve it has there. So I'll mark ½ inch here, mark 1.5, mark ½ inch here, mark 1.5 here. Now if you're plus size, you'll mark 1 each here and 2 inches here. Now I'll go ahead to place my ruler, and I'm going to go ahead to draw a straight line connecting those dots, and I'll mark this on the other side of my pattern. Now place your curved drew starting from your bust to your underbust, but come down a little to avoid having a pointy edge. Now I'll go ahead to connect. After I'm done connecting, I'll go ahead to outline this. Now I'll come up by ½ inch, come down by ½ inch. This is a dart at this part, and I'll go ahead to blend it in. Now if you're wondering why this princess dart at this point is a bit curvy, just like I said, from the actual picture, it's as if the princess dart is hanging like towards the armhole area of this dress, because they used a cord lace in making this dress. So you have to like match the patterns at that side, right? Even at the center part of the neckline, they used a cord lace to cut it out. So you also need to match the pattern. So I went out by 1 inch and I replaced it to the armhole. That is the ½ inch dart intake on both sides. So I'll start marking my measurement. Mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake at the armhole. Replace and add my sewing allowance. I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4. Measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. Now after marking that, going towards the waist, my waist is 28 and I want to take out 2 inches from it. I want to snatch it. Then 28 minus 2 will give me 26. That 26, I'll divide it by 4 and I'll mark. Measure the dart intake, replace and add a sewing allowance. So now I'll go ahead to mark what I have on the waistline on the basque length, place my ruler, and I'm going to go ahead to connect. After I'm done connecting, we are now going to work on the rest of the pattern. Now the next step I'll take is to increase the neckline by 3.5, come up by 1 inch at the underbust, because the neckline extended here. But now if you're cutting this part, you have to use a cord lace that has a border. Now you'll be placing two borders to form your V neckline, and then place body together and then go ahead to top stitch. I'm going to find my bust dart, and to get your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 17 inches while the back is 15.5. If you minus 15.5 from 17 inches, you have 1.5. Now for the basque, I blended my pattern, marked 2.5. Then from the side, you're going to come in by your sewing allowance and connect back. So after I'm done marking that, I'm going to go ahead to cut this out. And after I'm done cutting this out, we'll now go ahead to cut out the back. So also remember to blend out the darts of this dress while you're cutting this. Now I'll also cut out the neckline. So just like I said, from the actual video of this dress, is more like they used a cord lace. And at the neckline of this dress, just like I said, for the front pattern, you're going to be using two cord lace, just like we have on the actual dress. Then you place the neckline together, unless you're using an ankara or any other fabric to make this dress. So you can now go ahead to cut it out. So this is what I have. Now moving over to the back pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurements, and I marked my shoulder to bust and my shoulder to waistline. I marked out my chest line area just like we did for the front. Now my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. So for the neckline, I used the same that I used for the back. For the width and for the depth, I use 1 inch. Now I'll go ahead to connect it back. That's, I'm using 3.5 by 1 inch for the back neckline, because I used 3 inches for the front, 3.5 for the front, sorry. Now I'll start by marking my dart, where I'll mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. So after marking that, I'm going to place my ruler and I'll connect. Now the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to mark 1/2 inch on both sides of my pattern, and I'm going to go ahead to extend this all the way up. But before marking, I'll make sure that I don't take it all the way to the bust. I'll come down like 1 inch from the bust. Here I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Add any sewing allowance of your choice. Now going down to the waistline, I'm going to go ahead to mark my waist circumference. That is the waist you snatched in front. That is what you use. Replace the dart intake and also add your sewing allowance. Now I'll go ahead to connect this. After I'm done connecting this, I'm just going to go ahead to come down by 1/2 inch here, and I'm going to connect this all the way down, going towards the back pattern. So you notice what we have there looks a bit blockish, so I'll just connect it this way. Now after I'm done connecting it, the next step I'm going to take is to mark the lacing. So you can decide to use 1.5 or 2 inches, and I'm going to go ahead to draw a straight line. Now this is what I have here. I'll make a dot to indicate that I have like a lacing there. Now I'll go ahead to cut out this part. Now after I'm done cutting that, we'll now go ahead to alter the yoke area. We are going to tighten it, because if you make it this way, it might be loose or at the back of your dress. Now I'm going to go ahead to come up by 0.3 inches here, or 0.5, and then slant it into the yoke. Now I'll come down by 1/2 inch here and then slant it into your pattern. Now I'll just go ahead to cut that part out. After cutting it out, I'm done drafting this particular pattern. So after this I'm done, I'll just go ahead to cut this out, and this is the final result. You can cut this out or blend out your darts.